Hi everyone. Bit of a day, isn't it? For those who don't know me, I'm Sharon's husband, Mithilesh. And before we start this, I'm going to tell you an interesting story. In that, I'm going to tell you how, again, Sharon's husband, Mithilesh, became so strong. Let me take you back to the days when I was an 8-year-old. But again, taking you again back to those 8-year-old days, I want all of you to look around. Just look around for a minute. Look at that man sitting wearing a lot of gold. Right? Look at them. And while you plan to recall their faces, I want all of you to understand that no one, none of the faces that you saw today, none of the friends that you walked in with, none of the mentors that you have had, no one is coming to save you. It is all you by yourself. And now comes the best part of the story that starts when I was an 8-year-old kid. I was an 8-year-old kid, a very notorious, mischievous child. I was told that my mother has been diagnosed with cancer. And we rushed to the hospital with every single penny in our pockets and every ounce of hope in our hearts. I remember walking up into the white corridor, being there, roaming around, catching a bed for my mother so she could get treated, and asking the same question to every person passing by, starting though, be it a compounder, a nurse, a servant there, a doctor, that will my mother be all right? And they said that, yeah, it's okay, beta, ho jayega. Yeah, sab badhiya. And then there was this one fine gentleman standing right there in the corner, and he said to me, hey, come over. I went to him running, and I said, what, uncle? And he says to me that, go and tell your mother that she'll be all right. Me being, again, a very obedient, humble child, I went back to my mother. And while I was sitting right next to her bed, I whispered and I said, Mama, your life will be as beautiful as your face. Now, when I think of this statement, I realize what a profound statement I said when I was 8-year-old. But then I realized, from where did I get the courage? The society, the dominant society gave me that courage. Over the years, I started going to the hospital because my mother used to get hospitalized once a month, and in the latter days, twice a month. I remember going from school back to the hospital, staying there, being with her all the time, attending to her every need, staying by her throughout the night, and then in the morning, packing my bag and going back to the school. And the society, the same society, used to come up there and say, he's just a silly little boy not willing to leave his mother. Look at the women in the house. They are so strong. They're doing so many things. And slowly, this boy, who was again an 8-year-old and in the ages of growing, slowly disappeared from everyone. He wasn't eating properly. Maybe he thought that that is what life is bringing him to. And then one fine day, I won't say it as a fine day, but one day, my mother passed away. And something inside me broke. That was the time when I sat with myself and I asked myself, now what? Now everything is finished, possibly. Because again, as a child, I used to think that no one was coming was the most negative statement, and I was still believing in that no one is coming is still the same toxic thing that I'm carrying all my life. So I made a promise to myself and said that I am not going to go down this way. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever, ever in my life. If I don't find a way, I will make one, is a promise I made to myself. But though I made my promise, I did not know how to fulfill it, because all the time I had my family around. So again, by that time I used to go to the school and colleges, and I was working as a helper, as a part-time helper. I saved some money, went to a bookstore, purchased a few books, and suddenly, when I thought, my ego was at the top, and I used to think that I'm going to rule this world one day, everything, I can do everything. But where do I start? And as soon as I opened my book, I realized that there was so much to unlearn, and so much to learn. I had to reprogram myself, and I made a promise to myself again that henceforth I will continue sleeping on the floor, and I will wake up at 3 o'clock every morning, and I will start my day with a cold shower. Again, a big promise. I again made a big promise, and the next day the alarm went up. I stood up out of my bed, and I was like, now I have to do this. Again, I stumbled upon a couple of failures, but in that silence of waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, where you're all by yourself, there's nobody asking you questions. There's no one asking you, hey, what are you thinking? No one. it is all you and yourself, I realized that skill beats everything. That was my second law. I decided that I had the ability to focus on one thing and learn that thing entirely, inside out. And I chose sales. And I said that I want to become the best salesman that a person can have. And then came up my best finding of my life was whenever I went out for meetings and somebody said no, I used to ask them, why no? But then, in this spirit, I also picked up MMA. I also chose that I want to fight, I want to become physically fit. And during those fights, I realized my third law, which was no one can rattle you. Because I knew that the society out there was dominating the child inside me, what is that I can do to fight is I can control my inner peace. I can become so strong that nothing outside in this world can ever disturb my peace. But if you verbally cannot disturb my peace, physically you can do nothing to me, was the promise I made to myself. And with this, now when I walk into the boardrooms, when I go and talk to people, and people ask me, why Mithilesh, a sales leader like you, a business leader like you, who has been influencing continents and nations into business, why would a person like you go and fight in a cage? And I tell them that both the cage and the boardroom are going to ask you one simple question, that can you stay calm when the world around you is chaotic? Can you show up when no one is clapping for you? And before I conclude, I want all of you to look around once again. Look at the way you are ready, the way you are laughing at each other, spending time, have plans to grow in your life. Look at each other, and I want you to clap for everyone, because here we are congratulating every other person for whom no one came, and they become the best version of themselves. Thank you.